Good evening and welcome to the August 13th, 2024 meeting of the Abington Board of School Directors. I note the attendance of all board members, including Mr. Muhammad, who's joining us virtually. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The Abington Board of School Directors has convened this evening's meeting at the Abington building, and the public is welcome. In consideration of the health and safety of the school community, this meeting is also being broadcast live on the Abington School District YouTube channel. This meeting is being recorded and will be accessible on the district's website and cable channel no later than Friday, August 16th, 2024, to allow those members of the public who cannot participate to view the proceeding at a later time. Comments from citizens will be conducted in person and by phone. Information regarding participating remotely in public comment will be displayed on the screen at the time of public comment, and the board thanks the public in advance for its cooperation. This is a place where we hold dignity and respect in high regard. Both your voice and your presence are welcome in this space. And with that being said, Dr. Fetcher, any additional comments for this evening?
I have some announcements as we prepare for the 2024-2025 school year. I just wanted to share a few updates. First, I would like to announce that we will be having a special board meeting held on Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. This is in addition to our board meeting calendar. And this special board meeting will be to celebrate the academic achievements of our students. Typically, at the end of the school year, there are several board meetings at which we showcase the academic accomplishments of dozens of our students in the areas of math achievement, literary and creative writing, music and fine arts, and more. Since there are many proud parents and guardians who typically like to attend these meetings to cheer on their students, we have made a decision to host a special meeting moving forward so that we can host it in a more spacious auditorium environment. And we hope that this will make it more comfortable for our families as they have a chance to watch their students being formally recognized by our Board of School Directors. More information will be communicated as we get closer to the spring, but I wanted to make the announcement now as we will add that special meeting to our calendar. Next, I am pleased to announce that on Monday, August 19th and Monday, August 26th from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m., our Abington School District Human Resources Department will host a job fair here in the boardroom of the administration building. Attendees can receive more information about some of our open positions for the 2024-25 school year, including those that are full and part-time, such as paraprofessionals, playground aides, bus monitors, and more. There will also be opportunities to complete applications and participate in on-site interviews. For those unable to attend, our open positions are always available on our website by clicking the Careers button on our homepage. So lastly, I wanted to provide an update regarding procedures for student use of cell phones during the 2024-25 school year. As you may know, a number of states across the country, as well as individual school districts, have acted recently to ban or limit the use of cell phones in schools. While no such legislation has yet to be signed into law in Pennsylvania, there are several pieces of proposed legislation that have been debated within the State House and Senate. The topic of cell phone usage among youth has also been a reoccurring discussion following the publishing of the book, The Anxious Generation, by social psychologist Jonathan Haidt, in which he outlines the facts about the epidemic of teen mental illness that hit many countries at the same time, beginning with the decline of play-based childhood in the 1980s to the rise of the phone-based childhood in the early 2010s. The Abington School District leadership team has been reading this book throughout the summer, which has provided additional insight as to how to reduce student cell phone usage in school, which may benefit our students socially and emotionally. It could also help minimize distractions during class to benefit teaching and learning. And we hope it could provide beneficial, it will prove beneficial from a safety and security standpoint as an added positive outcome. With this growing body of evidence, plus the support of many parents and guardians who have come to me and many of our administrators over time expressing their concerns of how much access students have to phones during the day, I've asked our principals to develop plans as to how we can help reduce these distractions in our schools. At the elementary level, principals are able to address individual concerns of cell phones as they arise in grades K through 5. They will maintain a no cell phone during the school day rule. As you can imagine, at the secondary buildings, the use of cell phones are greater, which is why we will be purchasing cell phone holders for use in instructional spaces. This means that each time a student walks into a classroom, they'll place their phone into a pocket on the holder, which they will be able to retrieve prior to leaving class. Exceptions will be made, of course, for students who need to access their phones for wellness reasons, such as the digital tools of a smartphone to monitor health levels, or students who need to use it for accessibility purposes. More details will be communicated by Mr. File and Dr. Swift prior to the start of the school year, and I will reiterate this information in an email to our staff and parents and guardians tomorrow. We will continue to monitor the bill currently going through state legislation to see if we need to make any modifications to our plans. And as with all new procedures being implemented at school, we will evaluate the effectiveness of this initiative and adjust as needed. For some students, this may feel like a big transition, and we anticipate it will take a few weeks for it to feel more routine. We appreciate the support and understanding of our parents and guardians as we implement these procedures to benefit our entire school community, the most important of them being our students, teachers, and staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just started Anxious Generations myself, and as a parent of Gen Zers, reading his research on the connection between social media, phone use, and mental health connected to anxiety and depression. I am thankful that the administration has taken on this, taken it seriously, and put some things into place to help our students to be freed up to just learn when they come to school. So thank you for all of your efforts. With that being said, comments from my fellow board members. Mr. Allen.
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Frazier.
Welcome back, everyone, but I have a question about the pockets. Could you describe the what it looks like, that particular technology and or materials?
Sure. It's pretty simple. It is equivalent to, if you recall, like a shoe holder that falls on the back of a door, and there's pockets that are open.
I got you.
Yeah. There have been talks about grants at the legislative level for pockets with locks. We think that it's important to take what I would call a small step and wait to see what happens as far as legislation is concerned, and changes of policy would be proposed according to that. Some of the school-wide bans include different things like locking the device in the beginning of the school day and at the end of the school day unlocking it. We're taking this step at this point to see what we do and implement, and we're kind of waiting to see if there are any changes in legislation, and at which time we will adjust our board policies, and it would be brought to you as well for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opening comments, Ms. Frazier?
Welcome back, everyone, of course.
Thank you. Ms. Eisenhart?
Yeah, good evening and happy to be here with you all.
Dr. Mowry?
Welcome to the start of our 2024-2025 season.
Ms. Spalding?
I say welcome, and I welcome the cell phone policy.
Mr. Muhammad?
Happy New Year, everyone. Happy to join you virtually.
Ms. Fazy?
Welcome back, everyone.
Ms. Hartman?
Welcome back.
And just for myself, I'm going to steal a moment. Today is my 19th wedding anniversary. So I just want to say to my husband, who may or may not be listening, because, you know, we have 5 children, that I love you. But thank you for sharing this time and being so open to me serving at this capacity. So 19 years, let's keep it going. Thank you for that. And then we'll get back to board business.
Can I comment on that?
Yes, please.
He's a very lucky man. So.
I appreciate that. I am a very
Happy
lucky-
anniversary.
Thank
Happy
you so
anniversary.
much. Thank you so much. Dr. Fetcher, that takes us to this evening's orientation, please.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Robert Rosenthal, Director of Pupil Services, and Mr. Joseph Taliaferro, Supervisor of Student Services, to briefly offer a board orientation of results of survey data from surveys administered to students, staff, and parents and guardians during the 2023-2024 school year.
Happy anniversary and
Thank
good
you.
evening, Dr. Fetcher, Mrs. Brown, and the Board of School Directors. This evening, we will present on student surveys from the 23-24 school year. The Abington School District is committed to the social, emotional, and behavioral development of our students. As you know, we utilize the multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS, framework to provide an evidence-based social emotional learning curriculum and climate initiatives to identify and program for those students who need additional support and to evaluate how our programs and interventions are working. At Abington School District, we examine a number of data points at the district, school, grade, and student level in order to determine 1, student perceptions of school and community, 2, students at risk for having social and emotional concerns, 3, the impact of social and emotional learning curriculum, and 4, the fidelity of our positive behavior intervention and supports, or PBIS, framework and the programming. We'll begin by examining the Pennsylvania Youth Survey, or PAYS. So the PAYS is given to students across the Commonwealth in grades 6, 8, 10, and 12, every other year. It is completely anonymous and voluntary to students. In our district, we had close to 2,000 students complete the PAYS last fall, and the entire state had 361,000 students complete the PAYS. The PAYS survey covers substance use, mental health, community and school climate and safety, and risk and protective factors. It's important to note that these data cannot be disaggregated by race, gender, or sexual identity. The first set of data focuses on alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use and access, which is measured in PAYS by a set of 34 questions. Prevalence of use tables show the percentage of students who tried the substance. The 30-day use, whether the student has recently used the drug or substance, is a sensitive measure of current activity. For all charts, the blue bar is data from 2019, the red is from 2021, the yellow is from last fall, 2023, and the green bar is the data of the entire state of Pennsylvania. This year, 10% of students reported using alcohol in the last 30 days. Alcohol use continued to decrease in use as reported by our students. Marijuana use is also reportedly being used by our students less frequently. 5% of students reported using marijuana in the last 30 days, down from 7% and lower than the state at 6%. Inhalants can also continue to see a decline with 0.7% reporting its use compared to 1.2% in the entire state. And finally, vaping any substance decreased in reported use from 15% in 2019, 11% in 21, and 5% last fall. This slide shows binge drinking and also driving impaired. 2% of our students reported having 5 or more alcoholic drinks in a row in the last 2 weeks, down from 6% and 4% in the last 2 surveys. Only 0.4% of our students reported driving after using alcohol and 0.8% after using marijuana. Perception of risk is an important determinant in the decision-making process young people go through when deciding whether or not to use alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs. The question is asked, how much do you think people risk harming themselves if they, for example, smoke marijuana regularly? This year, 87% of students reported that using marijuana regularly puts people at moderate or great risk of harming themselves, up from 75% in 2021. 91% of students reported it was moderately or greatly risky to use prescription drugs that are not prescribed to them. 86% reported that taking 1 or 2 drinks of an alcoholic beverage nearly every day is risky. And finally, 84% reported that using an electronic vapor product once or twice a day is putting themselves at moderate or great risk of harming themselves. Pays did not ask the question about vaping before this year, which is why you don't see a bar for 2019 and 21 in the chart. Shifting over to mental health. The Pays survey asked questions about how students are feeling and about suicide. 20% of our students reported feeling so sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 weeks or more in a row that they stopped doing some usual activities. This is an improvement over the 21 data showing 31% of students reporting this. 35% of our students reported feeling depressed or sad most days in the last 12 months, and this also is an improvement from 21, which was 43%, but not back to the 2019 data, which was 32%. 12% of our students reported seriously considering attempting suicide in the last year. This is an improvement over the last 2 surveys. 4% reported making a suicide attempt in the last year, which is also down over the last 2 surveys. Although that is an improvement, we continue to take this information very seriously, and you will hear in our summary more about our procedures, interventions, and programs. Students who demonstrate a lack of commitment to school are less likely to view being a student as a positive trait. These students have higher risk for a variety of problem behaviors. 40% of students in our district viewed that the things they are learning in school are going to be important later in life, a slightly downward trend. 80% of students reported that there are lots of chances for students in my school to talk one-on-one with a teacher, slightly lower than in 21, but higher than the 2019 data. Schoolwork is viewed as meaningful and important by 31% of students, about the same as the state. And finally, 86% of students reported that they have lots of chances to be part of class discussions or activities. This slide is regarding perceptions of safety in school. 74% of students reported feeling safe in school. 18% reported feeling threatened to be hit or beaten up on school property, a slight increase from years past, but slightly lower than the state. 7% of students reported that they had been attacked or hit by someone, about the same as in years past, and about 1% of students report bringing a weapon to school, comparable to the state. This was a new question this year, and the question was, how many times in the last 12 months have you brought a weapon, such as handgun, knife, etc., to school? Bullying behavior contributes to lower attendance rates, lower student achievement, low self-esteem and depression, as well as higher rates of both juvenile and adult crime. The most effective way to address bullying is through a comprehensive school-wide program. Overall, 83% of students reported not being bullied in the last 12 months. 12% reported bullying occurred very rarely or now and then, and 4% reported it occurred often. Another question was, in the past 12 months, did anyone, when using technology, ever try to get you to talk online inappropriately, look at inappropriate pictures, or do something else inappropriate? 11% of our students reported these things occurred in the last 12 months, down from 18% in 2021 and lower than 15%, which is reported statewide. 54% of students reported that adults stop bullying when they hear or see students tell them about it. The type of bullying most reported by our students is emotional abuse, insults, and name calling. The next section highlights indicators of risk that can increase the likelihood of substance use, mental health concerns, and/or other concerning behaviors among youth. 19% of students reported changing homes in the last 3 years, once or twice, compared to 22% in the state. 29% of students in this district reported the death of a close friend or family member in the last 12 months, compared to 35% at the state level. Students also reported they were worried they would run out of food at home due to money issues, 17% of students in the district, up from 9% in 2021. When young people participate in pro-social activities, that fosters healthy development. They are more likely to develop connections with peers and members of the community who engage in pro-social behaviors. Being engaged in pro-social activities provides opportunities for bonding with adult role models, such as community leaders, neighbors, police, or clergy, who can offer more guidance and emotional support. 86% of students in this district reported participating in at least one pro-social activity. 46% of our students reported being engaged in family-supported activities or hobbies, such as dance, gymnastics, hiking, biking, or skating. And 61% of students reported attending school-sponsored activities such as sports, music, and clubs. And this is higher than in 21, but not up to the 2019 number and lower than state numbers. Engagement in faith-based activities continues to slowly decline and is lower than the state average. And finally, 25% of our students report being engaged in work or employment, fairly consistent numbers compared to prior years and the state. Overall, risk and protective factors are a good way to review the health of Abington School District. Risk factors are the things that put children at risk for negative outcomes, such as drug addiction, dropout, and mental health problems. Protective factors are characteristics that are associated with a lower likelihood of problem outcomes, such as parent involvement, after-school activities, and religiosity. The highest risk factors or challenges are reported by our students as low commitment to school, parental attitudes favorable toward antisocial behavior, and peer attitudes favorable toward antisocial behavior. The lowest protective factors, also challenges, were reported as religiosity, school opportunities for pro-social involvement, and community rewards for pro-social involvement. And now for the other side, the strength, students in Abington reported the 3 highest overall scores for the following protective factors: family attachment, family opportunities for pro-social involvement, and family rewards for pro-social involvement. The lowest risk factors reported by our students, also viewed as a strength, are friends' use of drugs, interaction with antisocial peers, and perceived availability of handguns in the community. And now I hand it over to Mr. Tagliaferro.
Thank you, Dr. Rosenthal. Good evening. Students completed the PDE School Climate Survey by the Office for Safe Schools in both the fall and the spring of this year. We had 3,555 students complete these surveys in the 23-24 school year. Student answers were anonymous and scored on ratings from 1 through 4, and then we examined the average scores. School teams examined the scores by school, by race, by gender, and by grade. There are 3 domains: safe school climate, social emotional learning, and student support. Safe school climate domain measures how physically and emotionally safe students feel and asks questions such as, students at this school are often bullied, students are often teased, and I sometimes stay home because I don't feel safe at school. Social emotional learning domain measures student perceptions of their peer social and problem-solving skills And questions include ratings on how students care about each other, treat each other with respect, and give up when they can't solve a problem easily. The student support domain measures how supported students feel by their teachers and other adults in the school. And questions include ratings on how teachers encourage students to share ideas about things they are studying in class, and that adults in my school apply the same rules to all students equally. This is a chart of the total score for elementary buildings. For your reference, scores below 2.5 indicate areas to improve. And while all schools reported slightly lower scores in the spring, all of our elementary schools are above the score of 3. Scores at the secondary level fell slightly as well from fall to spring. The middle school total spring score is 2.52 from 2.65, and the high school score is 2.63 from 2.68. SEL scores, or social emotional learning scores, showed no significant changes from fall to spring. At the elementary level, the SEL domain measures student perceptions of their own social and emotional behavior and skills. Students rated how much they agree with statements such as, I care about how others feel, I respect what others think, and I am kind to others. At the elementary level, the scores were in the 3.3 to 3.4 range. At the middle school level, questions in the SEL domain ask, how much do you agree with the following statements about students in your school? Then they rate 1 through 4 on selected items. So higher scores reflect better perceptions of their peers having social and emotional skills. For example, at the middle school, 75% of respondents rated agree or strongly agree with the statement that students at their school get into arguments when they disagree with people. This is a score of 2.1. The score was 70% for students at the high school, or a score of 2.2. 67% of middle school students agreed with the statement that students at my school think it is okay to fight if someone insults them. This is a score of 2.1. And at the high school, 65% of students agree with this statement, which is a score of 2.2. At the middle school, the percent of students who agreed with the statement that students in my school try to work out their disagreements with other students by talking to them was 34%, or a score of 2.2, and 38% at the high school for a score of 2.3. Next, we will review the student support domain scores. At the elementary level, the student support domain asks students to rate how much they agree with statements such as, my teachers really care about me. The homework I get from my teachers helps me learn, and my teachers help me do better on my schoolwork. Once again, we do not see significant differences between fall and spring scores, and the scores ranged in the spring from 2.9 to 3.2. At secondary levels, we saw almost no change at the senior high and a slight decrease at the middle school in the student support domain. Scores were 2.61 at the middle school and 2.71 at the senior high. And students were asked, how much do you agree with the following statements about your teachers? For the middle school, scores ranged from 2.0 for items, I am usually bored in my classes, 73% of students agree with this statement, to a score of 2.9 for the items, teachers encourage students to share their ideas about things we are studying in class, or 79% of students, and teachers really care about me, 75%. For the senior high, scores ranged from 2.1 or 69% in I am usually bored in my classes to 2.95 or 82% for I can get extra help at school outside of my regular classes, and 80% or 2.9 for adults in this school are usually willing to take the time to give students extra help.
So 75%, just rough number, 75% of students are bored in class, according to the survey, yet 75% of students feel that their teachers care about them.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. The last domain in our climate survey is the Safe Schools domain. In general, student ratings were higher for items such as, I feel safe in the hallways and bathrooms of the school. Percents in agreement range from 77% to 91%. Students respect others who are different, range 71 to 88%. And students feel safe, range from 82 to 95%. Items such as students are bullied range from 20 to 44%, and students at my school are teased, picked on, made fun of, or called names range from 31 to 50%. These are areas of focus for our elementary teams. For the elementary schools, overall safe school scores range from 2.8 to 2.9 in the spring. Secondary surveys showed slightly lower scores than elementary students for safety, the senior high scoring 2.77 and the middle school scoring 2.59. 60% of students at the middle school and 37% at the senior high agreed with the statement that students at my school are often bullied. 55% stated that at the middle school they felt safe or mostly safe in the hallways and bathrooms. 64% felt this way at the senior high. It is important to note that the data in all categories were examined by race and that there were no statistical differences of note for any category or subgroup across grade spans.
Could you repeat the statistic on, or the data that you received back regarding the middle school? The total amount that felt safe for middle school students was what percentage?
Absolutely. Yep. 55% of students at the middle school said they felt safe or mostly safe in the hallways and bathrooms. And that number at the senior high was 64%.
Thank you.
Of course. The PAYS data provides student perceptions and reported incidents once every 2 years. And we set goals, develop resource maps, and adjust programming based on the results. A more sensitive measure of which students need support is obtained through a teacher screening of all students K through 8 called the Student Risk Screening Scale, or SRSS. The screening is conducted once in October and again in March or April. The data is examined in order to determine who needs additional support and monitoring. It is not used to examine the effectiveness of our climate initiatives. These are teacher ratings only. There are 5 internalizing items on this scale, items such as sad or depressed. The fall to spring data is displayed here across grade levels. When students fall in the high risk range, we provide interventions. And when they fall in the moderate risk range, we monitor students. We use the internalizing data to carefully find students who need supports due to potential mood and anxiety concerns. This data shows that students in 4th and 5th grade show higher internalizing behaviors than students in other grades. And this is the SRSS data for externalizing behaviors. And there are 7 externalizing items such as lying, cheating, and stealing. This data shows that, as observed by teachers, our 3rd through 6th graders have more externalizing needs than students in other grades. At this time, Dr. Rosenthal will continue the presentation.
Okay. All kindergarten through 8th grade staff are asked to complete the self-assessment survey, which measures staff perceptions of our positive behavior interventions and supports, or PBIS, model. It answers the question, is PBIS being implemented correctly? All staff in the buildings are encouraged to complete the survey. Sample questions include expected academic and social behaviors are taught directly to students. My school has a documented system for responding to behaviors that interfere with academic success. In my school, data is shared with staff, and all staff have an opportunity to provide input on core practices. Each school develops goals from this data to address weaker areas. Staff rate the quality and effectiveness of Tier 1 supports and interventions, which are for all students. Tier 2 and 3 supports and interventions are for students who are at risk or in need of additional support. Staff ratings on these domains suggest that Tier 2 and 3 programming is an area that needs improvement in a number of our buildings. As a result, we are working with our core teams and pupil services staff to ensure that evidence-based interventions are occurring in those buildings. The Montgomery County Health and Human Services was awarded a federal grant for school violence prevention from the Bureau of Justice Administration. This 3-year grant for approximately $1 million has 4 main strategies: educating students with the skills they need to prevent violence or bullying, equipping teachers with tools to manage the classroom dynamic effectively and efficiently, providing opportunities for partner school districts to further enhance their overall school safety strategy through the integration of data, and to train teachers to foster a positive school community through professional development. Teachers were asked to complete the DESA Mini, which is Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment, for each student before beginning second step lessons and again after completing all lessons. Using a scale that ranged from 0, never, to 4, very frequently, teachers indicated how often they saw evidence of positive behaviors in the weeks prior and post of the prior and after second step was delivered. At Abington, teachers provided ratings for 3,284 students for both pre and post DESA data. Teachers were also asked to reflect on their perceptions of second step. This data is from the 22-23 school year. We only just received last year's data at the end of last week, so we'll report that at a later time. This year's data, on average, elementary school students in the Abington School District scored 1.9 points greater on teacher-rated social emotional capacity after second step was implemented. This statistically significant increase of about 8% was slightly less pronounced compared to all participating elementary schools in the county, though it should be noted that elementary students in Abington began the year with stronger social emotional capacity than their county counterparts. Domains include paying attention, contributing to group efforts, performing the steps of a task in order, speaking about positive things, doing something nice for somebody, those kinds of things. On average, so the 22-23 school year was the first year second step was implemented at the middle school. On average, middle school students in the Abington School District scored 1.4 points lower on teacher-rated social emotional capacity, whereas the county's overall average scores remained nearly unchanged. However, it is notable that middle school students in Abington began and finished the year with stronger social emotional capacity compared to the county. Last year's data, which we just got a sneak peek of, did indicate no loss of skills from pre to post implementation. And the majority of teachers had positive perceptions of the second step curriculum in terms of its usability, its value, and its alignment with school needs. NAMI stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. All 10th and 12th graders participated in NAMI's presentation by the Montgomery County chapter called Ending the Silence. And this is a presentation that helps students learn about the warning signs of mental health concerns and what steps to take if someone they know is showing symptoms of a mental illness. The clear majority of students indicated that they learned the stated goals of the program. Okay. The data we collected from the 23-24 school year shows important progress in a number of areas. Alcohol and drug use, as reported by students, has decreased. This does not mean that we'll do less with our drug prevention efforts. We will continue our efforts so that these results are sustained. For the most part, the mental health data shows improvement since 2021, including suicidal thinking and behavior. While student-reported mental health concerns have improved, Abington School District takes mental health and wellness very seriously, where we have continued with a system for screening students who may need support, providing staff with professional development, relationships with community mental health resources, and having pupil services staff trained to provide suicide risk assessments. The data on perceptions of school safety and bullying are being taken very seriously by both secondary school teams. We are looking at several ways to address this, including training our security staff on climate initiatives and having each school team develop action plans to add to their bully prevention plans. We continue our support of families with food insecurity with collaborations with local organizations, which supply us with grocery gift cards, coats, book bags, as well as holiday food gift baskets. Additionally, our social workers work to ensure all who qualify for it receive free and reduced breakfast and lunch. The climate survey data showed nice results for the elementary buildings. At the secondary level, it is concerning that the majority of students report the perception that their peers do not have the skills needed when disagreements arise, or how to handle conflict peacefully. Student surveys suggest safety and bullying continue to be concerns. Our district is committed to improving climate, student behavior, and perceptions of safety. This past June 18th, just after the end of the school year, Dr. Fetcher called a leadership workshop, which focused on developing school improvement plans. All of this data that you saw tonight was reviewed by school, and each school's leadership team began developing their plans based on their specific data. Using a multi-tiered system of support framework, their plans included what can be done at all 3 tiers and the resulting professional development needed to accomplish their plans. These plans include teachers' professional development on classroom behavior management, teaching and reinforcing behavior expectations, and reinvigorating the teams in each building. Through our mental health grant, a major focus for this year is the training and implementation of restorative practices and trauma-informed practices. Both of these directly address safety, bully prevention, and peer conflict resolution concerns. The grant-funded new positions of coaches for these practices will work with many groups of our staff, including our pupil services staff, to design and implement interventions for students in need. We also will continue to work with Aldersgate prevention programs for SAP, or Student Assistance Program, and Child and Family Focus for school-based outpatient counseling. Our social emotional learning curriculum and bully prevention curriculum across the district continues, and PBIS expectation lessons continue to occur in September, January, and April, and the additional activities involved with No Place for Hate and Start with Hello continue as well. In conclusion, we know our strengths and weaknesses through the analysis of numerous data sources that we collect. We know we need to work together with our equity office, special education, teaching and learning, and pupil services to ensure that we're data-driven and utilizing best practices. We incorporate mid-year data reviews in each building as well through our superintendent's committees, such as our climate committee, our equity committee, bully prevention committee, and behavior committee. This concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments from the board?
I have a quick question about the Second Step program at the middle school. Is that implemented through the health course? Who is implementing the Second Step program?
Yeah, the health staff and also Second Step lessons are also utilized by teachers during advisory.
And how frequently are the middle school students getting that instruction?
I believe there are 12 lessons that are, and it depends on when they have the classes, so it's a staggered throughout the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sure.
So thank you for the very comprehensive report. And this, a lot of wonderings came up in my head around this because, we know that Maslow's hierarchy is before Bloom's. And, Maslow to be your perfect self, Bloom's for your hierarchy for education, a taxonomy for education. And that's, I apologize for interrupting you earlier when I was like, wait, 75% of students are bored in school, roughly the numbers, yet 75% of students feel the love from their teacher and educators. I wonder, and I'm not looking for an answer, but I wonder if somehow we increase the engagement. I wonder what that does to some of the other things in these surveys, but also, and I know achievement presentations coming down the road, with that increased engagement, how will that impact our achievement and other things in here? It's really, it's nice to know that the students have respect of their teachers and they feel their teachers like them. That you know, like that's step one, and that's really great. But the fact that 75%, give or take, are feeling bored in class, like that's alarming to me, and I'm wondering, and I'm digesting this as you're sharing this. Also, the survey data I thought was really interesting, the first survey that was shared out, because that gives a window into a student experience in life, not just the classroom. And the result of a fear of the loss of food in the household, how that spiked on the chart. I don't know what the exact number was, but when the number was said, that was really alarming. And again, Maslow's hierarchy of need before Bloom's. If food is a concern, like, what are we doing? So actually, I do have a specific question, just as a reminder for me, Dr. Fetcher, and I'll finish my thought, but remind me what, or not just me, but the room, what the, please remind me, excuse me, what the free and reduced breakfast and lunch policy is. I know that I asked that last year and I was wrong. So I just for my own reminder. And then another thing that I thought was very interesting in this, and again, it's just an eye wondering because I'm digesting, as society seems to be accepting marijuana more and more, according to the results of this survey, the perception of risk by students is increasing more and more. So as society normalizes marijuana, they're looking at it as a bigger threat to them or a risk. Again, just an eye wondering, this is really good data, and I know because through the year, there's many updates that this isn't just a announce and done. You guys constantly are working to make sure students feel safe and belonging in school, so I appreciate that. But I really would be interested when the achievement presentation comes, some discussion around that engagement piece, because that was interesting. But the food thing, please.
The food thing. So free and reduced lunch are now considered the same. So it is all free, whether you're qualified for free lunch or reduced lunch. And breakfast is free.
For everyone.
For everyone.
Okay. Okay.
That's statewide, correct? Or is that
Yes.
Like that's like kids not feeling food insecurity, like how that skyrocketed, and that's, I mean, I know our world right now, food's really expensive. That's like really upsetting hearing that kids are hearing those conversations, and it's giving them an insecurity.
I would take a moment, if I'm going to put you on the spot, Dr. Rosenthal. Can you speak to some of the other initiatives that are occurring in order to address some of the food insecurities?
Absolutely. We continue to receive gift cards from both Acme and Giant, who are very generous. They have, plans when you round up, where they donate those funds to us back. And we're very fortunate. We get thousands and thousands of dollars of gift cards, and we do look at our homeless population as well as our free and reduced lunch population first when we're looking at supporting them. Our social workers also are, working with a lot of our families in need that we know are in need just based on sharing homeless status or other things. And they also look at our community for resources, and we're able to provide clothing and book bags and school supplies to many and many of our families because of the generosity of our community.
Are we seeing an increase? I think it was 11% increase in that question. I think that's what you said. It went from something to 17% maybe. Are we seeing that increase in our families that are getting or qualifying for reduced or free lunch at this time? Are we seeing that same percentage actually increasing in that population?
Our free and reduced numbers continue to increase, yes.
I'm wondering if we're catching the kid, if we're adequately finding the children that are responding to this need. So
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've tried to do is encourage people to apply for the programs. We have increased our outreach with community relations to make forms available and also to help fill out forms for families as well. One of the issues that occurred this is in my opinion, during COVID times when lunch and breakfast were free universally, not as many people filled out the forms because it was done automatically. So we have a huge push to make sure that if families know that this is a resource out there, and because free and reduced lunch are treated the same and it is all free, it expands the number of people that are offered that there's 2 free meals during the day.
And then do we refer or have partnership with area banks that would that we can promote or communicate to our families for needs outside of
Do you mean food bank?
Yeah, if we have any established partnerships.
Oh, yeah. Our social workers, we have lists on our website and our social worker pages that list where they are and all the food banks in the area, shelters, all of those resources on our website, and we're looking to update that all the time. We also, last year, had 3 resource fairs that our social workers did in our community to share what the resources were with our community as well. And we're constantly looking for additional ways for community outreach.
And one connection that I'll make too with the food pantries in the area, food banks, our student initiatives, I'm very proud of our students who do food drives and, that community service. And it is in conjunction with local food pantries. So I think that it's an overall awareness. And every time I see the amount of food that our students collect or donate, I'm extremely impressed.
So the efforts, I'm not questioning the efforts. It's the fact that there's, and if you want to go to that slide, I mean, there's no numbers on it, but slide 11, it doubles. So maybe parents are taking advantage of the food out there, but these students that took this survey, according to the colors at least, red to yellow, it literally looks like it doubles in perception of food insecurity. Like that is, if you're hungry or if you think you're going to be hungry, like what does algebra matter if you think you're not going to have food at home?
I agree.
I'm not questioning the efforts. I understand there's lots of things that happen, but maybe we should do some more messaging to students, like, it's going to be okay. There's stuff out. I don't know what it is, and this isn't the time or place, but in the think tank or whatever you do, definitely addressing that, because that's like, if you're hungry, nothing else matters, and it doubles that there's a fear of being hungry. Now, whether they're actually hungry or not, I don't know, because this is just a worry. But
well, the question is, they were worried they would run out of food at home due to money issues.
Yeah, that's pretty scary if you're a kid. If you're an adult too, but and all the programs and stuff that's out there, maybe that there needs to be a push of messaging, like, you won't go hungry here,
The other thing about the food insecurity is that, I don't see anything up here that's addressing the non-school days, like the summer. I noticed this summer they didn't have the lunch program. They did last year, but not this year. Kids get hungry in the summer as well, and the weekends.
Go ahead.
We do have a program called Sunbucks that we've worked with our families to make sure the state of Pennsylvania has an initiative, knowing that there are increases in these numbers. So we're pushing all of our families they have to apply for it. And we've been doing some messaging and community outreach to make sure that our families are applying for that. They, I believe, get $180 per child for the summer.
That's nothing. I mean,
Right,
like
Like a-
$180. That's one trip to Aldi or something. Like,
Wow.
that's way more important to me than an algebra score. Like, not, I mean, not putting algebra on the spot. I'm just, algebra was actually pretty good, but I'm.
Yeah, to your point, and we will continue to increase whatever efforts we have and create connections with organizations to build that. I know that it is something that the increase is something that has affected probably every family in terms of the cost of food and the grocery stores. And I think that, to your point, we'll continue to increase our messaging, but also pursue different areas that are out there in order to, get supplies and food supplies for people who are in need in our community.
I'd be interested to not wait 2 years to have some more data on this. Like, I don't know. Like, because this survey is every 2 years,
It's
I
every
think.
2 years, yes.
Like, that's too long to wait to see how the student perception of like food insecurity for me.
Understood.
Any additional questions or comments from the board?
Yes. Speaking of messaging, I think of the Surgeon General. He encourages Congress to put up warning labels on social media use. So when I look at the variables here, like things that will aid in a student's mental health, changed homes, death of friend, family, worried about food, so on and so forth, I'm wondering if that could be a variable, extreme use or excessive use of social media
It's a good point.
as a variable.
Yeah, it's not in the PAYS survey. I think with all the attention that's going on nationally with this book and other movements, it does make you wonder if they're going to add that.
Thanks.
Any additional questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, just one more. I really greatly appreciate the administrator's efforts to get such voluntary data from students, and then also some that's, more aggregated. I think that's excellent to have. Sometimes when you have it, it's difficult to know what to do with it. I think it's worth emphasizing that, from the voluntary data we looked at, I think it was that 74% of our students feel safe at school. And when we looked at Abington Middle School and the high school, there's a drop off there, feeling safe in our hallways and our bathrooms. And I think that's significant and a point of interest for the board.
I would say that that's been a point of interest for us, administratively in the district. And it's something that we have looked at in terms of even our school improvement plans to make the connections to learning capacity, the social and emotional learning, and putting measures into place. So it is at the forefront of something that, is essential and important to us here at the school district. I also feel that it is important to note that we continue to evaluate different measures that we put into place in order to address that and to have students feeling safe. As Mr. Allen alluded to, feeling safe in school and before learning is essential, and it's a foundation. If you don't feel safe or you don't feel that you're comfortable in school and your needs are met, then learning's not going to occur. So I just want to assure you that it is at the forefront of our work here in the district.
Yeah, thank you.
Any additional questions or comments?
Yeah, just thinking more back to what Mr. Allen said and about the whole discussion regarding food insecurity. And this probably isn't data that we have from this, but I'm sure we have this data somehow. But do we have information about how many students participate in free breakfast versus how many participate in free lunch? And maybe what the disconnect is there. Is it just that like students are, the food's made available, the students go ahead and eat it, and that's what allows breakfast to happen, versus is there an application, some type of hang up that's preventing lunch from happening?
Yeah, so in terms of all that data, federal regulations require us to keep track of that data. We do look for trends. There is a drop-off at secondary in terms of coming to school and having the breakfast, even though it's available. There's also a drop-off in lunches at school when students prefer other options. But for secondary, we always make a push there. There are applications for free and reduced lunch, reduce at the secondary level, and have for years. So we do put a big push there. And then also, as I said, the use of the program is decreased in secondary than in elementary.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't have the figures in front of me.
I know, I'm sure. Thank you, though.
Why not?
I guess I wonder, just from working with these populations in the past, is it like just an application that's kind of holding some of this up? And how is that barrier overcome?
Even I heard an application for the $180, like that.
Yeah, I know. So I think sometimes it's put out there, but somebody hears an application and they're just like, not gonna,
Yeah, it's very strict program that's federally
Yes, I
mandated.
agree.
So
It's not a reflection on it. It's just
no, I'm just saying so that we try to provide as much help as we can when people are trying to navigate the system. But it is a complex system to do, and when you look at inflation and current rates to qualify for a free and reduced lunch, I think there's a correlation to why we're experiencing even more difficulties.
Just to speak to your point about applications, other districts that have a larger population of students that need it, they meet a threshold, and that application is no longer needed because they know that enough of their students need it, they're going to offer it to everyone. And I think that just shows the disparity that can present in a district where ours, we're seeing this huge increase, but we haven't really caught up with a way to address the application program, or the errors that present in identifying families. And that's not just us, it's just that we don't have something overarching to protect those students that are experiencing it, like maybe other districts do, specifically to this federal program.
A question about June 18th. You said that the building leadership had a chance to look at their building data.
Correct.
Which is broken down more than what we receive, which is perfectly fine. My question is, after looking at that and coming up with the building plan, do you know how much of that requires help from parents, guardians, community members, and our resources outside the school and those partnerships?
That's a great question. One of the things that we do through a number of our committees, including the Climate Committee, the Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports, all include parent involvement. And I think that one of the things that happens specifically with the PAYS data is there's an analysis that the county, through their grants, has someone who helps every district analyze their data. And one of the things that we get in the end is a resource map of how we're going to address the different needs that are identified in the PAYS, and it includes the resources of our parents and community.
Okay.
So I know that that's not specific to the June 18th, but that's part of what we get as a district, and then that shuffles down to every school's plan.
Okay. Thank you. And I recall asking about the school plans. I know at the beginning of the school year, the building leaders, the principals do a great job saying what the focus is for the year and things of that nature. That is located on the school district website?
It will be for this year. Yeah. Okay. We, toward the end of August, the plans are finalized, and Dr. Butts, you want to give specific dates?
The plans will be brought forward to the school board at the second August board meeting, and then after it is approved by the school board, we will post those plans onto our website.
Thank you.
Title I school plans will be posted to the website.
Yeah,
Title I is mandated, but we do it for all schools.
Correct.
correct.
And then all school-wide plans will be posted. So it's only the requirement of approving Title I for clarification.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from the board? Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Fetcher, does that conclude our orientation for this evening?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. We'll move forward with agenda item number 3, which is comments from citizens. Comments from citizens are being conducted both in person and by phone. The phone number to participate in public comment is 267-715-3717 and is featured on the screen at this time. You will be able to join remotely or by using your landline phone. And if there's anyone within the room, there are mics to the left and to the right of you. Please be sure to state your name and address. Mr. Sneed, you'll help me with knowing how much time is needed for callers. Thank you.
Just came on the stream, so you got 60 seconds.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
We have a comment.
Thank you.
Our next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 8717. Please state your full name and address.
Please let me know if we have any additional callers on the line.
We do not.
Any speakers within the room? Okay. We'll move forward with agenda item number 5. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation to approve the June meeting minutes?
Number 4.
I'm sorry, I thought it was number 5.
It is 5 here, but for some reason on this it's 4. So
I apologize for
no,
the confusion.
that's not your fault.
Okay.
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the minutes of the board meeting on June 11th, 2024, and the board meeting on June 25, 2024.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. This is a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Ayes have it, and so moved. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the personnel addendum?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the changes in personnel as reflected in personnel addenda numbers 6.1 and 6.1A and confidential addendum number 6.1B.
Second.
I have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. The personnel addendum includes assignment changes for 2 administrative staff members, requests for leaves of absence for 3 professional employees, changes of assignment for 3 professional staff members, appointment of 10 professional employees, rehire of 2 current long-term substitutes for the 2024-25 school year, and the changes of status for 24 professional employees who have completed the tenure requirements to go from temporary professional employees to professional employees. In addition, the personnel addendum continues with compensation for IP meetings, interpreter and translation services, Title III parent meetings, team leaders, and support and auxiliary staff items. I would like to take a moment to bring your attention to the retirement of Miss Dawn Green, administrative assistant at McKinley Elementary School, who has served the district for 25 years.
Thank you. Question or comment from the board?
Just to comment on Miss Green, she will be greatly missed. I'm a McKinley parent. She has done so much behind the scenes for our kids over the last, well, in the time that I've seen, but I'm sure for 25 years to make sure we had consistency with student organizations and special things, and just provided such a loving and caring environment for all these years. Just so grateful for her, and she'll be greatly missed.
Excellent.
If
Mr.
I can
Muhammad.
add, as another McKinley parent, the McKinley school phone number is still saved in my phone as Dawn Green. She's the first person that I heard from when we were transferring into the district, and she's been extremely helpful over the course of the past few years.
Excellent. Any additional questions or comments from the board? as always, thank you for your service for all our, for in this case, one retiree. We hope that your next chapter is your best chapter. Ms. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye, ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for permits for the use of buildings and grounds?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the applications for permits for use of buildings and grounds as reflected in addendum number 7.1. All permits are subjected to change per the provisions of the health and safety plan pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. The permit addendum reflects typical requests for buildings and grounds for meetings and other school activities and events for this time of year, including district athletics, choral, band, and instrumental activities. Also, please note the various permits that have been submitted for open houses.
Mm-hmm. Questions or comments from the board? Just want to thank, and sometimes it shows up here, sometimes it shows up in another agenda item, the teachers, the PTOs, the PTAs who offer their time to create spaces for students. One of the data points we saw from, I forget which, whether it was PAYS or one of the other surveys, was that the percentage of students who are participating in our school events are not as high as other things. So I want to thank you for creating the spaces. Parent and guardians, I want to remind you that being a part of the school community is being present in these spaces, so please do take advantage of them. Any other questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye, ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for awards of contracts?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the awards of contracts as reflected in addendum number 8.1.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Tonight, for your consideration, we have 3 awards of contract. The first is for asphalt renovations. This is from the 2017A capital project for Abington Senior High School. The next is for, as you heard advertised before, for our emergency communication POTS or plain old telephone service, telephone lines. And the next is for telephone and communication services.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye, ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the YMCA pool lease?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors authorize the administration to execute a 2-year lease agreement with the Abington YMCA at $19,984.33 for the 24-2025 school year and an annual fee of $19,984.33 plus the 2025-2026 Act 1 index increase for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. From the 1990s through August 31st, 2020, Abington School District had a lease agreement in effect with the Abington branch of the YMCA for after-school and weekend non-school related programming. Following conclusion of the Abington Senior High School additions and renovations project, the YMCA resumed rental for the period from September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2024. This lease agreement is for a period of September 1st, 2024 through August 31st, 2026. And which details the basic schedule for the use of the pool by the YMCA for evening and weekend use during the school year and daytime and evening use during the summer months.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
What are examples of some of those uses during the evening and weekends?
So there are various teams that the YMCA will work with that use the pool. They are, I guess some of them are township level teams or club teams. They're not our school teams. So the YMCA sponsors that, and they also have different things like lessons of that sort as well.
But not necessarily for our population, for our student population?
Some of our students do participate within that, but it's not. It would be, I guess, the equivalent to the Abington Raiders, not Abington School District.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any additional questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye, ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the MCIU Vital West lease?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors authorizes the administration to enter into an agreement for the operation of an early intervention program with the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit for the 2024-2025 school year, with the cost for the facility to the MCIU at $8,000 plus related expenses.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Brown. Abington School District has provided space for operation of preschool programs for many years with different providers, and most recently since the 2015-2016 school year, the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit at the administration building here. They're at our lower level. And this is the first recommendation for a leased classroom at Rydell West for early intervention program. Children ages 3 to 5 who reside in Abington School District as well as neighboring school district participate in the programs, both here at the administration building and what will be at Rydell West. We are requiring the MCIU to prioritize Abington School District residents when placing eligible students at the locations here in Abington. Part of the rationale for leasing the classroom and prioritizing Abington School District students is to reduce transportation costs and having Abington School District students stay within our community. While MCIU programs are normally in operation from September to June, the classroom is available before the end of August to accommodate the MCIU program. The MCIU will utilize one classroom with access to the playground and multi-purpose room.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
I have a question. How does that, so they'll be leasing one classroom at Rydell West, and that's not going to displace any of the students there?
No.
Okay. And then my second question is, I assume that rent is in line with the rent they pay for facilities in this building?
Yes.
Okay. Is it equivalent or?
Dr. Melchor, do you want to speak about the?
This is an agreement that Mr. Lionetti was working on with the IU, but I believe that the dollar amount for the square footage of space is equivalent.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments?
I think that this is, just to speak further about the possible cost avoidances, this is we do have the space in that particular building, and I think this is a possibility for us to regain some of those transportation costs, which can be pretty exorbitant for when students are in this type of program outside of our district boundaries.
Also, Head Start is incredibly invaluable to students as they prepare to enter kindergarten.
Yes, there's, we hope that as many students that can qualify for the program, take advantage of it. And we have, obviously seen not only here in our school district, but in general, the advantages of those pre-K-12 programs.
Yep.
Any additional questions or comments? Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
You're on mute.
Aye.
Ms. Vacy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman? Aye. Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendations in agenda items 11.1 and 11.2 regarding bus patrol?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors authorize the administration to enter into an agreement with Bus Patrol America, LLC, for services based upon the rates and fees set forth in the agreement. It is also recommended that the Board of School Directors authorize the administration to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Abington Township for the implementation of bus patrol.
Second.
Second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. These resolutions will authorize the administration to enter agreements with Bus Patrol and the Abington Township. I'm going to ask Dr. Melchor to speak briefly about what this means.
Sure, and I'm going to punt part of this to Mr. Rem as well. But the agreement with Bus Patrol, the first portion for this agenda item, the school district's agreement with Bus Patrol is for the provision of technology, including cameras, GPS systems on our buses, as well as the buses that are utilized by Abington Trans, our third-party provider, at no cost to the school district for installation and maintenance of those systems. Second part of the agreement, which is between the district and Abington Township, is for the township, specifically Abington Township Police Department's enforcement of stop arm camera violations. So part of the technology that's being provided by Bus Patrol are cameras that would capture violators who drive around school bus stop arms when students are being loaded and unloaded from the buses. That information is provided to the township for review and then potentially issuance of a violation to the offender. Yes, Mr. Rim, to just add on with regard to the technology component.
Yeah, so like Dr. Melchor said, the entire program is part of the bus patrol program, covers the cost of the additional cameras for our buses. We're going to get GPS units in all of our vehicles. There also is a parent app that now will be available to our parents so they can in live time see where the bus is, where their children's bus is. If the bus is running late, they'll get a notification, whether it's the morning pickup or the afternoon pickup, but they can actually see on a GPS map, where the bus is at any particular time. Along with that, we also will be getting tablets in the buses where there's a live time roster of students that are on the bus, as well as card scanners. The card scanners will help us with our access reporting for the state. Instead of having to keep logs every single day of who was on the bus, who was not on the bus for access reporting, we now will just be able to, the monitor on most of our special needs buses will be able to just scan the student ID card that's associated with each student, and that way we have accurate reporting for the access program as well.
And so just so members of the community are clear, this program or the technology is being provided by the company who will be reimbursed with a portion of any fines resulting from infractions, right? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so there's no real outlay from the district budget.
Correct. And, just to speak further, we have been receiving from many parents over the years the request, especially for the GPS and safety features. So I'm very pleased to make this recommendation. It is something, what I would say, is long overdue with technology that we have and with the need for increased safety measures in our society today.
Any additional questions or comments from the board? I have two. I just want to confirm that the cameras are on the outside of the bus and not the inside of the bus because they're being viewed by third party. Is that correct?
You want me to take this? So yeah, there's two sets of cameras. There are cameras outside the bus that are monitored by the bus patrol program, but there also will be upgrades to our interior cameras, which will only be accessible by school district employees. Select school district employees, principals, superintendent's office, myself. It'll be adding additional cameras to our vehicles.
Okay. Are those updates covered by the bus patrol?
Yes, everything is contained within the bus patrol program, including routine maintenance as well as replacement of equipment should it fail.
And my second question has to do with informing community members, the partnership between the township, making sure everyone is informed, and then we do our due diligence to make sure families are informed about what is a violation. For example, if it's a 4-lane street and there's a bus pulled over and you're making a right turn, can you do that or can you not do that? So how do we share that if parents just aren't sure of when they can proceed and when they can't?
Yes, so one of the things that we are going to do is obviously there are school components of that and there are traffic safety components. So I know Dr. Melkor is working with traffic safety with Abington Police Department to what messages we can put out in terms of the types of questions that you're asking. We, of course, will be communicating with our parent community about what this is and what the program is and how they can use it. But Dr. Melkor, I don't know if you want to speak further on that, but I know that you're in contact with traffic safety from Abington Township Police Department.
Yeah, you pretty much covered it. There'll be communications from both sides, particularly just so that the community knows the potential with regard to not only what the law is, but also what the potential violation means. We'll put communication out as well with regard to the new GPS system and access of locating the bus and locating the bus information. We're anticipating probably mid-October is when all of the equipment will be installed. So we'll begin communication near the start of the school year and then continue to ramp it up as the program is ready to be implemented.
And I can also speak to some of the feedback that we've received from surrounding districts who have already implemented this program that has been very successful. And I've heard that from colleague superintendents, but I believe also from directors of transportation as well. That is the sentiment from those districts who have previously done this.
That is correct.
One last thing, I don't remember reading about the scan. I think I heard you say there's a scan for attendance so that you can keep track of who's on the bus. Is that what I heard?
We do have that option so with the tablets that will be installed, there is also a scan, like a barcode scanner, basically you would see in a grocery store. You can do one of two options with that. We can require students to scan on and off daily, which is not something we're going to implement without a lot of discussion, obviously. But, also, you have the ability to just scan students who are in our special needs program, who are on the access program.
Okay.
The students will not be scanning. The attendant on the bus will just be scanning their cards as they get on and off, so that way we can keep track. Rather than keeping these copious logs we have to do every month.
Okay.
Paperwork.
That's what I was trying to get to. The logs, that's only for a certain population of students, and they have whatever they would need to be scanned to keep those logs?
Right now, we do it by hand. So this will replace the monthly, daily log sheets we have to fill out on every single daily basis.
Okay. All right. Any additional questions or comments from the board?
I'm assuming with the GPS, you'll know if a school bus driver doesn't show up or comes very early. Because on a couple of occasions, I've driven kids to school, to the junior high, middle school, and high school because the bus never came.
It is live time, so yes. The answer is yes. We'll know where they are. You can even see them parked in the yard for how many hours they were parked in the facility. So yes, we'll know exactly where everybody is at any given minute of the day.
Thank you. And parent access for that will be shared, I'm sure, through all of our platforms of how to access that. And talk about safety, for example, if there are students who are in the custody of one parent but not the other, things of that nature as far as safety and bus location. Some things to consider. Okay. Any additional questions or comments?
I just want to say, so regardless of the computerized system, I just want to reiterate that if there is a concern, or if you are concerned about the location of a bus or the timing, or one didn't show up, I would encourage parents and guardians to please continue to call transportation, to find out information. If there is a problem, this is one way to continually address it or to give out information. But we feel that it's important that that communication between parent and the district continues. So I just want to be clear about that.
Thank you. If no additional questions or comments, seeing none, Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier? Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mallory?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye, ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for project access?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors authorizes the administration to enter into an agreement with the Civic Solution Group for the processing of school-based access program claims for reimbursement in the amount of 29 cents per claim for direct services and 16 cents per claim for transportation services that are provided to eligible students who participate in the district's special education program for the period of July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. This item is for the annual agreement for processing our school-based access program reimbursement claims. It has been extremely successful over the years since we moved to this, and we recommend continuing.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mallory?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye, ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the district-wide assessments?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approve the district-wide assessment program, thereby providing representational consent for this method of collecting information about students, with the stipulation that parents and guardians be provided written notification of the name and purpose of each assessment to be administered as attached in addendum number 13.1.
Second.
Thank you. Can we please change the screen to district-wide assessments? Thank you very much. Dr. Fetcher, we have a second.
Hey, thank you, Ms. Brown. It is requested that the Board of School Directors provide representational consent to administer the assessments reflected in the addendum before us. Parents and guardians will be advised in advance that such assessments are to be administered throughout the school year and to which grade levels, as well as the purpose.
Thank you. Question or comments from the board?
I have a quick question about some of the assessments. I think I counted 11 assessments for our kindergarten through second graders. And I understand, maybe I can get a little bit of understanding around it. Most of them are language arts or ELA, but there are many. And I'm wondering if that is taking time away from instruction because we're assessing so much and so frequently at the K-2 level, but also other levels as well. But like there's the emerging literacy survey and the early literacy skills, which is DIBELS, and then the star reading. Well, star reading isn't that level. The Fontes and Pinnell benchmark assessment. Like it just seems like there are a lot of assessments being done at our K-2 level. And I guess just some clarification as to if why and if that is necessary.
Okay, Dr. Butts?
For the assessments, not all students will be given all of those assessments. So oftentimes we will use assessments that kind of trigger the need to determine a subset of skills or define needs or strengths, more defined sets of skill sets, and that's when they're administered. So it does look like a long list, but it is a list that represents the totality of the assessment toolkit.
Okay.
And used when needed, for example, in the cases of English language development, or in the case of maybe a student with an IEP, those additional assessments that get put into place for that specific child.
Okay, so these assessments are not given to every kindergarten through second grader.
No.
If it says K to 2, okay. Thank
We
you for
will,
the clarification.
We'll provide the board with more detail in terms of to whom the assessment is given, whether it's all grade, everyone in the grade, and or a select group. So I'll provide that information to you. Just for your information, I think it's valuable. Obviously, to your point, we need time to teach our children as well as not just assess them. So I understand that. We'll provide you with more detail.
Thank you.
Can this document be presented in a way where it's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, where tier 1, everyone has access, tier 2 is your, I'm not there yet. In 2 weeks, I'll be back in my school mode. And then tier 3 is that 10%. Is there a way to present this document so that not just the board knows, but the parent knows that which assessment each child has access to?
Yes, we can do that. So we can revise this chart to make that information clearly known.
And when we use the parent communication, we'll ensure that that information is within the notification to parents about our assessment program.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from the board?
Yes. So to get the results of all of this, if I recall, there was like a one-stop shop going to be Linkit years ago with a parent portal. Is that live and well, or do you go to Skyward? Like, where would a parent go for one-stop shop results of this, if that exists? I'm making an assumption.
So yes, parent portal on Linkit is live. Not every assessment would be located on Linkit, but the assessments that are used for all students would be, such as GEDI and Sinai Ready at the lower grades, or the benchmarks for the upper grades. Results for many of these tests would be given to parents through meetings, dependent on why they were given.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the instructional materials adoption?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors, in accordance with sections 508 and 803 of the Pennsylvania School Code, adopts new textbooks and/or instructional programs for the subjects, courses, and levels reflected in addendum number 14.1.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. As you are aware, at the June 25th, 2024 meeting of the Board of School Directors, academic program changes were approved, adding 5 new reading courses. The Department of Teaching and Learning worked with professional staff, building administrators to evaluate instructional resource needs. Item number 14.1 reflects the recommendations for instructional materials adoptions to be used in the new reading courses for the 2024-2025 school year.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? I did get a chance to look through the titles, and one that really stood out to me was The Skin I'm In. And I'm looking forward to purchasing that book for my middle schoolers as well. So thank you for the work that you do. Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for approval of special education services in agenda items 15.1, 15.2, and 15.3?
Yes. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors authorizes the administration to contract with Pediatric Therapeutic Services for the provision of applied behavior analysis services, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech and language services for the district's special education program for the 2024-2025 school year for up to $1,104,495, including during ESY if needed. It is also recommended that the Board of School Directors authorizes the administration to contract with children's therapy consultants for the provision of occupational therapy and physical therapy for the 2024-2025 school year in an amount not to exceed $500,000. And it is finally recommended that the Board of School Directors approve payments to the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit for the age of beginner students for the 2024-2025 school year for costs associated with early intervention services in an amount not to exceed $135,000.
Thank you. And we have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. This item is for contracted services for our special education program that are dictated by various needs expressed in IEPs and services that we must deliver.
Questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan?
ESY.
Extended school year.
Okay.
So a summer program for students to help them not have as much loss over the summer between the end of the school year and the beginning of the school year.
Okay.
Any additional questions or comments? Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the school emergency operation plans?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the revisions to the school emergency operations plan.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. This policy regarding school emergency operations plan is being presented due to some of the revisions resulting in our review of the district plan. I'm going to ask Dr. Melchor to expand on that.
Thank you, Dr. Fetcher. Usually this plan comes to you once every 2 years. We'll be doing a additional review later this school year, and a revision will come to you, another revision for recommended changes will come to you in June of 2025. The recommendations being placed before you this evening are to information regarding school personnel changes that have occurred, district personnel changes, as well as our procedures with respect to lockdown, lockout, and a new term which we have added, stay put, which is language to be used in the case, for instance, of an incident of unrest within a building where we need adults and children to remain in classrooms, remain out of the hallways while an incident is being dealt with, but it's not the case of an intruder to the school or a imminent emergency requiring lockdown or lockout. The language that has been added to the district's emergency operation plan will be incorporated into a SAP revision as well as revisions to the individual school plans, so that all staff and students and parents have clarity as to what terms mean that are being used in the case of an emergency.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
I'd just like to make a brief comment and say I appreciate the textual economy of that particular agenda item.
Thank you. I can't take credit for it, but thank you. Ms. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the second reading of the members in terms of office board policy?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the second reading of the board policy entitled Members and Terms of Office Policy as reflected in addendum number 17.1.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
This is the second reading of the members in terms of office policy, and this is for a student board member to take part in our school board meetings. The only change from the last time you saw it was to fix the comma splice, and this will be, once approved, this will be followed by superintendent's administrative procedures that will outline in detail how students will be able to apply or be part of this.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
This is as a non-voting member of the board, correct? For the student.
Yes.
I mean, you don't vote anyway.
I was thought you meant because of the comma splice.
No.
No. Sorry. Yes, this school, sorry, this student board member would be a non-voting member of the board and participate in a board meeting, be able to ask questions alongside the board.
Correct. Questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I just want to say I'm really excited about this initiative.
Yeah, me too.
Student voice, student leadership is key for the proper functioning of a school system, and looking forward to working with whatever student comes along and sits beside us very soon.
Very excited myself. Any additional questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the confidential student matter?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the confidential student matter as reflected in addendum number 18.1.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Confidential student matters are regarding out-of-district placements, education settlement agreements, and the student disciplinary adjudications. Keeping in mind the confidentiality of student matters, I can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Ms. Spalding?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Abstain.
Ms. Fazy?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it, and motion passes. Dr. Fetcher, any additional reports or recommendations this evening?
Okay. Just double check. This evening, I provide you with the conference attendance and professional leaves report and the capital improvements projects report for your information.
Thank you. Any additional agenda items to be brought about by my fellow board members for this evening? Okay. That takes us to comments from citizens. Comments from citizens are being conducted live and in person and by phone. The phone number to participate in public comment is 267-715-3717 and is featured on the screen at this time. You can call in on your landline or mobile phone. If you are within the room, there are mics to the left and to the right of you. Please be sure to state your name and address. Mr. Sneed, I look to you to help me with the time, please.
We do have a call coming in.
Thank you.
Our next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 8717. Please state your full name and address.
Can you confirm that there are no additional callers on the line?
That is confirmed.
Thank you. Are there any speakers within the room? Okay, we'll have closing comments from my fellow board members. Mr. Allen?
Yes, I would like just to recognize and show some appreciation from me of the hard work that it took to put this agenda together. This was a jam-packed agenda, as it is often always, but I know that the months of work over the summer in preparing by the administrative team is significant, and it's like hours, days, weeks of discussions and analysis are put into a summary, into a motion. So just recognizing there's a lot of work that goes into that, and I really appreciate that. Anything that's brought here it's very clear that it's thought out, and I do appreciate that. I also appreciate the facilities crews that are out there getting the actual buildings together to open school, and having everybody, all hands probably on deck, getting the facility open for the staff and the students to come back. So thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you for the collective.
Ms. Eisenhart?
Yeah, looking forward to another great school year. Thank you, everyone.
Dr. Mowry?
I just would echo Mr. Allen's closing remarks. It does take a lot of work to put these meetings together, and we're grateful for the information and the willingness to entertain our questions. So here we are, off to another season.
Ms. Spalding?
I look for this will be my first full season, so we'll see how things go.
Thank you for your service. Mr. Muhammad?
Just good night, everyone. Thank you.
Ms. Fazy?
Again, welcome back, and thank you to everyone for all your hard work getting started this year. Thanks.
Ms. Hartman?
I want to echo what Mr. Allen said. Also, thank you for all the hard work and all the presentations and all the documents, and also patience with all of my questions and our questions, and really just working hard for our students. Thank you.
Dr. Fetcher?
Yes, I'd like to just take a moment, one, to thank everyone who is working tirelessly to make sure that school opens and everything's in order. I'd like to take a special moment this evening to recognize Mr. Matt Sneed for his service here in Abington School District since 1999. Mr. Sneed is pursuing new adventures, and although we wish him well, we hate to see him go. And I'd like to take a moment to just applaud him for all that he has done for Abington School District since 1999 and all those years.
And guarding the passwords.
Thank you.
I'll probably start crying, so thanks.
Thank
A lot
you.
of institutional knowledge.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Sneed, for your service, for your expertise, for going out and presenting and making Abington look great. So we appreciate you.
And wish you well.
And wish you well. If there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. Enjoy your evening.